Hail, hail. Good evening, folks, and welcome along to the Endless Celts Podcast. Delighted to be along with you tonight, joined by Stephen and Jed. How you doing, boys?
Fine, Anthony. Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing well too. I was letting Jed take that one because before we come on, I was butting in every 2 seconds. But yeah, I'm doing well, mate. I had the kids over the weekend. Had a great weekend. Obviously, Celtic had a good result, and we already have a few people in the comments. Christoph, Sam, Fran, Celtic as well. So it's good to have you along, and Robert Davey. Joining us this early on in the podcast as well. And again, look, we do want to apologise. We still are on a restricted schedule, which is why we're not really at full tilt most weeks at the moment. There's people have a lot of stuff coming up in Christmas time and that, but we are fully trying to get back on board with a full schedule at the Endless Celts Podcast. But we're here tonight. I think we're going to have a great podcast. We're going to talk about some of the great things we've seen in the weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it, Tony.
Absolutely, mate. As I say, welcome. Reiterate that. Welcome along, everyone in the comments already, and we'll bring up as many as we can as the show goes on. Like you say, Stephen, a bit of a bumper show. Plenty to get involved with, plenty to review, plenty to preview as well, because the big games are coming thick and fast. No sooner had we taken care of an Aberdeen side who have had a great start to the season in the semi-final, but the Champions League is right around the corner, literally. In 24 hours' time, Celtic will be in action. Less than 24 hours, the game will have kicked off against Leipzig, match night 4. And finally, it seems like forever since that Bratislava game, 2 tough games on the road with mixed fortunes. But we're back at Celtic Park twice this month in the European front. So, yeah, here's hoping we can get some more points to add to those that we've already got up. But, Jed, I'm going to come straight to you first, mate, because obviously you were at the game on Saturday night. Massive occasion, first of 2 semi-finals off the weekend. The 2 best teams in the country, Celtic versus Aberdeen. Both sides undefeated in the league. Both sides had only taken points off each other. Undefeated the rest of the time, wins right the way through, including the 2-2 draw at Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago. But a draw was not an option for either side on Saturday night. Something had to give. One team was going to be booking themselves in the final. It had been built up as, a meeting of, two gladiator teams. But in the end, Celtic were simply on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, Saturday morning I put in there WhatsApp group what I thought the team would be, and I got that almost right. I had Scales and CCV not trusty, and I thought 2-0. I was confident we were going to win the game, but that was a performance. We certainly laid a marker down, and Aberdeen can have no complaints, because if you go back to the game a couple of weeks ago, the 2-2 game, apart from 10 minutes in the game, we totally outplayed Aberdeen in that game as well. And it's how they're going to react to that moving forward as well. But I just thought it was a fantastic performance. And then I seen a wee start last night, and I'm not doubting it's wrong. That's 24 out of the last 25 visits to Hampden. We have won the game.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be so, because you take into account, even the Ronnie Dyla era, we won a lot of cups under, we won a couple of league cups as well there. We obviously lost the semi-final under Ronnie, but since Brendan came along, it's been, he's never lost at Hampden. And the only time that Ange did was the semi-final, also against the Rangers in his first season. But, that's the last time I certainly remember us losing at Hampden. So I've got no qualms to suggest that is correct information. As you said, Stephen, it's almost feels like Hampden's been a second home to us, probably since the time of Brendan's first spell at Celtic. No doubt, were you watching the game with your grand on Saturday, mate? So you must have been delighted with that performance.
Oh, 100%. I was watching with my grand and my brother as well. Obviously, the 2 kids who were here, but it was a great performance, and like what Jed said there as well. I mean, you're getting into the game, obviously. Aberdeen are clinging on with hope after the 2-each draw at Parkhead, and look, rightly so. That a good second half performance brought them back into the game, and they earned the draw. Whether or not we dominated the game, a draw's a draw at the end of the day. That's a point for them. But I think for what was important for Celtic was, and it was kind of annoying me, the build up to the game. When you look at the league, I mean, if you remember the headline after Aberdeen went ahead in the league for like a day or so, we were playing the next day. I think one of the Sky Sports reporters suggested or said, could Celtic keep with the pace or could they catch a red hot Aberdeen? And it's like, you're acting like this isn't Celtic's first rodeo. Which, I mean, we've been around the block before. We know how to deal with these high pressured events. And what a bit in the commentary yesterday, when we scored, I think it was our third goal. Like the commentator at the time said, this is Celtic's domain. This is when we perform on the big stage, when we have these high pressure environments, that 9 times out of 10 we turn up and get great results. And I know we're going to come on the goals and individual performances, but I just thought from start to finish, and it was just excellent. And I said in the group chat before I come on, I watched the highlights just to refresh my memory, but I watched them again. I watched them twice just to enjoy them moments again. And you can't underestimate that. And full credit to Aberdeen and obviously getting to the semi-final. But I think we really made a statement on Saturday. I think we showed we're still the top dogs. We are the top dogs in domestic football. There's levels that when we're on our day, look, any given game, any one-off game, that something can happen, something drastic can happen. But if we're performing at full tilt, that no one can really live with us in the Scottish game. And it could have been, I mean, if you look at the missed chances as well, we could have been hitting 8 or 9. But that's not get greedy. It finished obviously 6-0. And do you know something? Fair play to Jimmy Thielen after. He didn't make excuses. He was blunt, and he fairly was talking about Aberdeen and what they can improve on instead of refereeing performances or whatever he thought went against his team in that given day, which I thought was refreshing. You usually get people like McInnes and Stuart Cattlewell, whoever it may be, coming out and creating all these excuses, even though the team's been outplayed. So yeah, from that point of view, it was good, and I just thought it was an excellent performance, and I fairly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Can
I just stay on the game yesterday, because I did put at half time at you guys. I felt Aberdeen was going to get a player sent off. I thought they were leaving the foot in a hell of a lot. Look at the treatment Kuhn got, and if you look at a few of the goals, we managed to break away, and it was late tackles. And give the ref his due, he played advantage, because he could have easily pulled it back for fouls. I just felt Aberdeen were just trying to take a few players out in that game, and it didn't work. And when they couldn't do that, they never had a plan B.
I think from my point of view, but when you looked at that, because I said that to my granddad very early on, that they're relieving the boot in, what I think they were maybe looking at was if Celtic can deal with the rough and tumble, the physicality side of things, and we fairly matched them. We outplayed them. So, like you said, Jed, I mean, that fella in their number 6, Nielsen, Graham Chinney, I mean, they were chopping players at times, and like you said, Clancy played advantage when he could. But yeah, I just thought they were testing Celtic to see what we could deal with in terms of the crunching tackles, physicality. Because again, you're up against Engels, you're up against Atate. Can they cope with that rough and tumble side of things? And by the way, Rio Atate was absolutely incredible, backtracking and putting in tackles and putting his body on the line. That was probably one of the best all-round performances I've seen from him in quite some time. So I think we fairly matched them in that department over the 90 minutes.
I would agree, mate. I think that was one of the refreshing things to see that, of course, the game got away for Aberdeen quite quickly after the first goal, but we made it clear, even in the build-up to that, whether it's about whether playing the game in the more kind of technical, skillful way or a battle, we are match fit on both fronts, and we more than matched them, and we've completely surpassed them in every department. But we got started with a header from a set play. What sorcery is this? Jed, great header from Carter Vickers, who was partnering Austin Trusty at the back, both the US boys at the back. And Brendan Rodgers had mentioned that it was in terms of the pace. You look at how we conceded the goal that made it 2-1 at Celtic Park, that the Sockler getting in behind Liam Scales. And I thought what was refreshing to hear, obviously, I think we would imagine that Trusty and CCV, when Trusty was signed, we thought that will be the back four, or certainly that will be the centre-half pairing in the back four. But Liam Scales has performed admirably all season, not just domestically, but in Europe. as well. The way that Brendan addressed the situation post-match wasn't in any way that he was being dropped for any particular reason. It was just that for this game he felt that the pace of Sokler had to be combated with the extra yard of pace that Trusty has. But also great to see us scoring from a corner kick as well.
Yeah, I mean, great ball in. And I mean, I was obviously at the opposite end. I mean, Handon's terrible if you view the game, but you could clearly say for where I was, the height CCV got up. But it's not to see the highlights. What a good job Maeda done with the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't block him. He just stood in front of him. The keeper couldn't come out. So it's obviously maybe something they've worked on it in the training ground, but fantastic header. And just great to have Carter Vickers back because that guy is a machine. And he has got a turn of pace on him as well. You could clearly see that. If that guy was 2 or 3 inches taller, he wouldn't be playing for us. Let's not kid ourselves. He'd be away at a top league. He reads the game so well, and it was just, as I said in the WhatsApp on Saturday night, I thought Trusty and him were fantastic. I know Stephen agree with you about Hatate. I just thought Kuhn, to me, was man of the match. Even though Maeda got 3 goals, I just thought the contribution Kuhn made over the 90, the time he was on the park was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, Kuhn will be the topic, the next topic coming up. But first, I just want to mention Daizen Maeda, just in terms of chronological order. Someone, he's always been admired, Stephen, for his work rate. He's always been appreciated for that drive and work rate effort that he'll bring to a team. And he's always been good for a goal. He scored 5 minutes into his debut when he signed under Ange, but he's always been there as a potential goal threat, or maybe not as prolific as maybe he would have liked. But we just see all of this coming together this season. He was one of the players that I felt when Ange left, that he'll maybe miss, obviously, with the connection from his time in Japan, etc., that he might not be the type of player that will maybe thrive under Brendan's way of playing. But by God, has he proved me wrong. He is just for these major games, he's one of the automatic picks almost, you could say, both domestically and in Europe. I mean, we've seen plenty of times, James Tavernier must have nightmares every time a game against us approaches when he knows he's going to be facing him. But in Europe as well, that work rate and that determination is so vital for us, especially away from home. But just your thoughts. Obviously, comment on his 3 finishes, but just what his overall contribution to the club at the moment.
Yeah, I will come on that, but can I go back just to the Trusty thing that you mentioned, the Jed? I thought that was quite a telling call from Rodgers in terms of leaving Scales out. And by the way, no fault of Liam Scales, he's been fantastic, but he's always mentioned physicality, speed, athleticism, and I think he said them 3 words when he was asked why Trusty was playing ahead of Scales. And maybe this is the way forward. Maybe Scales will come in and out now, and Trusty can cement his place beside Carter Vickers, and having Scales there as a backup will be fantastic, and he can come in and do a job when he needs to be a first team player as well. There's no qualms about that. And I think Jed is correct as well, that if you looked at the landscape of that, we kind of nullified Sokler, whatever you call him, very early on in their pace. They didn't get in behind, I don't think, once in the first half anyway. I think Trusty was very assured on the ball. He was playing passes for the midfield, and he was very quick on the ball as well, shutting the spaces down. So I thought that was a good call. The headed goal, and the unique angle Celtic show you, it got whipped in and it was headed in by Carter Vickers, but it was the reaction by Engels. He kind of went on his knees at the corner flag and was like this. So that obviously meant a lot to him, and people have been getting on his back, and he has frustrated me at times. I did say that in the last podcast, but I thought he was another player who was excellent. And Daizen Maeda, I mean, if you look at that second goal for Kyogo, wasn't it? The work rate, it's actually mind-boggling, because before he even makes initial contact with that ball, the Aberdeen player looked favourite to get it, and whatever happened, it looked like he backed out of it or was afraid he was going to get crunched. Maeda nips it off him. he sprints, and I think it's your man McKenzie. McKenzie kind of matches him stride for stride, but the key in that movement is Maeda can slow himself down when he gets into the box. McKenzie kept on running and took himself out of the game. And then Dyson done a wee body shuffle. At this moment, I thought he was going to give it away or try and shoot and hit it over the bar. But his awareness to stop, look around him, and see Kyogo coming in and playing a nice one-time pass into Kyogo's feet, one touch out of Kyogo's feet. Beautiful finish off the bar. Maybe a bit more squeaky bum time than it had to be for Kyogo, but he got the goal. When it hits off the bar and goes in, like another goal we'll talk about, it looks fantastic. And I think when we signed him, he was the top goal scorer in the J League, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. So he can score goals. Do you know what I mean? He's a prolific goal scorer wherever he's been in his career. Maybe not so much at us because he plays out in the left a lot and he doesn't really get into his favourite positions because Kyogo or Ida takes that up. But see when he drifts in, and see for the goal he scored coming in off the left-hand side where Kuhn played it through.
Yeah.
No one in the stadium saw that pass. Nobody. Kuhn saw it. Everyone thought he was going to the safe option. I think there was a player running out to the left. He was going to follow him in. But the awareness from Kuhn, it's an incredible pass if you watch it back. Just in behind the centre halves. No chance. Maeda's running off the left back and then puts it past Mitov. And it's fantastic football. And Dyson Maeda frustrates us a lot. He does. And it's like what Jed said about Carter Vickers. If Carter Vickers maybe 2 or 3 inches taller and he'd be in the EPL again or wherever he may be, if Maeda had a first touch every time, he would be in a top team. The speed that fella has, when he hits a strike, he hits it. And we've seen it at Easter Road when he drifted in, he smacked it. He can do them things, but it's very ad hoc, as you would call it, with Dyson. He does the closing down really well, but the whole hat-trick scenarios and stuff, it's very hit and miss. And I'm just so happy for him that he done it in a semi-final, and that will be remembered. And he's a fantastic player. He really is. He's so vibrant. He's always running. How can you have that much energy? How can you physically have that much energy to do what he does? And look, that sums him up. He fits the Rodgers team. Maybe he's not the perfect jigsaw piece, but he fits it and it works. And I think Rodgers loves him. I think the whole team does.
Yeah, I think it's testament to him as a player, just how much he's made himself so important to both managers that he's worked under at Celtic, Jed. And for as long as he keeps up these type of performances, he's not going to be out of that starting 11 anytime soon.
No, definitely not. I mean, social media is a wonderful thing, and you're already seeing the pictures of a car mirror, and behind him it's Maeda. They're saying he's waiting for you to have. It is brilliant. He is. I mean, when he's on his game, he is such an asset for us. And like Stephen said, if he had the first touch, my God, he'd be a superstar. But he's a superstar in their eyes, the Celtic supporters' eyes. So let's, hope he continues. We've got tomorrow night. But I thought he was outstanding. Brilliant. And when he scores the goals, he doesn't over-celebrate as well. I just think he's such a calm, cool guy. It's maybe not in his nature to show emotion the way he does. He keeps it all in. But also another player, I don't know if you were going to touch on it, Anthony, a player who I thought has settled in really well now is Valle.
Yeah.
Because I said he would start on Saturday, and again he just looks the part. I think having Maeda in front of him makes a massive difference because he tracks back and helps out. So Maeda was just brilliant.
Now, here's the quick. Now, I tend not to do these, but we're as well saying it just for the sake of the show because he's been here for a long enough period of time now, and of course the fact that now, Stephen, you might be able to correct me. Do we have an option or an obligation to buy Valle, or is it just a season loan? Right. So is it a case of do we just enjoy him whilst he's here, or do we say to Barca, name your price? I know it's far
Well,
too early to even be suggesting it, but what would you do?
What might happen? What might happen with that? I know Barcelona renegotiated his contract before he came to us. Now, his release fee before that was something like 30 million euros, but his release fee at the moment with the new contract is 3 million euros. So I don't know if they were kind of renegotiating the contract, knowing they're going to sell him down the line and only wanting 3 or 4 million euros. Maybe that might happen. But what will play pivotal in this is what happens with Taylor and his contract situation. Yeah. That is the catalyst. So if rumours are to be led to believe that Kieran Tierney's lined up for a summer transfer next year when he gets freed up from his contract with Arsenal, I don't want that to happen, by the way. That we've went into this before, but it's just injuries and stuff. I love KT, but I think he's too injury prone. The main, as I said, catalyst for us signing Valle is if Greg Taylor signs an extension. That for me, because if you look at historically, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, we've never really let a player wind down his contract to December, January. So it's quite interesting. It's kind of unique seeing Greg Taylor do this. I don't know if he's wanting to go to, there's rumours about the MLS that he maybe wants to go to America and stuff like that. And look, fair play to him if he does. But if he moves on, I can see us pushing to sign Alex Valle and then looking to get another permanent left back in the summer as well. At the moment, I would sign him. Like Jed, I think he's settled in well, but he's had maybe 3 or 4 appearances now consistently in the team, and he's starting to improve week in, week out, which is good to see. I thought against Aberdeen there was a point when I watched it on TV, he took the ball, looked like he was fainting to his right hand side, but took up the left and totally took the Aberdeen player out. He can do stuff like that. He's very intelligent, obviously coming from the Barcelona Academy pedigree and stuff. So I would take him, but as I said, I think the whole Greg Taylor situation needs to be sorted out as well.
Stephen, if that is the case, if it's 3 million release clause, 3 million euros, that is cheap as chips. In today's market, that is cheap as anything.
Yeah, it's definitely. I must admit, and you know, what I'm like in terms of Greg Taylor. I always defend him. I think he's been a great servant to the club. But I think the biggest sort of compliment I can give Alex Valle, of course, you're always going to have, especially when it was a League Cup tie. His first match, it was a discharge. There was lots of changes to that game, and it was, of course, the stadium wasn't overly. It was a cup tie against Falkirk. It's not going to have that, absolute electricity that a big league game or a Champions League game has. So he's taken a lot of while to settle in, but I think he's one of the players that now he's really finding his feet, and great credit to him. Put it this way, I'm not missing Greg Taylor at left back, and that's a huge compliment.
That's big for you to say, Tony.
It really is. He's came in, and like you say, he just looks comfortable on the ball. He looks comfortable at the back, whether he's playing with Scales or Trusty on the left. He just looks very dependable and talented player. And it's like you say, we'll watch this space in terms of whether we sign him on a permanent contract. But definitely at the moment, if he keeps this sort of form up, something I would definitely be happy to do. But possibly in January. And speaking of January transfers, Stephen, another star of the show on Saturday night was a guy who just looks completely transformed now that he's got his sort of injury woes behind him and he's getting an extended run in the team. We've seen it at the tail end of last season. We've seen it through pre-season, and my God, we're seeing it this season as well. I'm talking, of course, about Nicolas Kuhn on the right-hand side of that attack. He just completely annihilated Aberdeen on Saturday night, whether it be cutting inside, whether it would just be taking boys on, the jinking runs, and of course, for me anyway, the pick of the goals on with the fifth strike as well. But this hasn't just been a one-off performance. He's been delivering these performances all throughout the summer. We obviously seen him do it against the bigger names, of course, Manchester City and Chelsea, etc. And you think obviously, but it's pre-season. We've all seen players have great pre-seasons and then things kind of fizzle out. But he's just went up to another level, and I think we're seeing why Brendan especially was very keen to bring him in January. Obviously, things weren't great at the time. We were struggling to find our form. there was lots of disgruntlements for a range of things. But now that again that things seem to have settled down on that front, he's been absolutely tremendous on that right hand side for us, hasn't he?
Oh, he's absolutely excellent, and I think he has 18 goal contributions already. Do you know what I mean? I think that's sensational at this early stage in the season. He's also been clocked as the second fastest player in the Champions League, which is another string to his bow. And then also today, as you will get coming into the Christmas period and the January transfer window, a German Sky Sports presenter with over 300k followers has said that Celtic have had 4 or 5 inquiries from EPL clubs looking at Nicolas Kuhn. So that's one to watch apparently. But again, without wishing him away, I just think that did the majority of us probably write him off, of course, and we're going to have this conversation throughout the season.
You did,
I think this is one. Yeah. I think this is one of these occasions where you can hold your hands up and say you got that wrong. And the whole issue with his teeth really obviously played a big part in that, and his weight issues and things like that. His pace was affected at the time. So that pre-season, like you mentioned, he's took that form and he's absolutely ran with it. He just looks electric. He looks so quick. He's so nimble. He's like a faster version of Patrick Roberts, isn't he? He's just the way he can take the ball left, right-footed, two-footed player. I mean, even that in itself in this day and age to get a player two-footed for €3 or €4 million is an excellent bit of business, and I just love watching him. As I said, the pass that he done to Maeda, no one saw that. No one saw that at all. Also, his goal as well, like you said, it was great work by the team. I think Engels got it, nearly lost it at the edge of the box, played it first time round the corner to Kuhn when he was falling over. A great pass by Engels as well. Another assist for him. And just that whip, that wee quick movement to get to his left side and puts it past the goalkeeper, hitting the bar and post, I think it was, wasn't it? And then it nestled in the bottom corner. It was an excellent finish. And you kind of run out of things to say because you say it week in, week out now, but there's just people say aura about people. I think he's got this kind of aura about himself at the moment. He's playing, his confidence is sky high. He's always willing to take the ball. And what I love as well, he's cutting in and he's making defence splitting passes. He's not cutting in and playing the ball back all the time. When there's a pass on and he sees it, he's trying to get it to Maeda. He's trying to get it quick to Kyogo. He's trying these intricate passing through the thirds or through the lines that Rodgers talks about all the time. And I think if you're Rodgers, you must sit back and go, what the fuck were you in January? Like, what? Do you know what I mean? What's going on here? Do you know what I mean? But obviously, as we talked about, all his issues kind of compounded and made that a thing that he had to get over in a Celtic shirt. But I'm so happy he's found his feet and he's found his form. And Jed was busting to talk about Kuhn. He mentioned him 2 or 3 times in the first 3 minutes of the podcast. So I know he's excited to put his thoughts in here as well. But yeah, what a guy. 18 goal contributions. And I'm going to throw this out, and Jed, you can give what you want to say as well. But this is to both of you. Where does he, in your minds, where does he rank between Felipe Yada and Leila Abada? I'm actually just curious to throw it out there and see what you think.
Jed, I'll let you go first. Post privileges.
Right, I think it's a bit too early to say because Leila Abada was a very good servant to the club. So was Jota. What I think about Kuhn is he seems a very humble young guy. Where Jota was a bit more flamboyant. When he scored the goals, he'd be more Ronaldo-esque with the celebrations and stuff like that. Where he isn't. And that to me is a good thing. You know, I've been saying that Jota was an amazing player for us. But if he keeps going the way he's going, he's going to probably have a better season than any Jota or Abada had. If he keeps playing the way it's going with his assists and goals, he's going to be, I think we could be looking at the player of the year if he keeps going the way he's going.
Yeah, big call. But yeah, I can completely understand your reasoning, Jed. And I do agree as well. I think Abada was one of the first signings that Ange made, and again, always kind of bring it back to where the club was at that particular time. We things weren't great. Of that we'd had a terrible season. There was a lot of a big tidy up job to do, and Abada. I would say definitely with Kuhn and Jota, Stephen, I'm sure you would agree with this. I think both of them were a lot tidier on the ball than Abada. I always felt Abada, and don't get me wrong, it's a skill to have in itself. There was a lot of times he was in the right place for a rebound or a deflection and things like that. When you actually watch these first few goals back, the amount of times it's a shot that's saved, but he's there just to put it in. Of course, then you look back to some of the more important ones, like the goal against Dundee United to take the 3 points. But he was one of the players that, even although he had great spells and he would score good goals and stuff, but there wasn't that kind of prolonged kind of contribution from him. He would get goals and gluts, and his numbers always looked great, and he was very, very skillful. But that kind of almost match-long contribution, it was more fits and starts, I felt, with Abada. But again, we got to remember, we signed Tim, he was only sort of 19, 20 years old as well. So that sort of dip and peak and trough and sort of form is going to be natural.
How old is Kuhn?
24.
I think he's a bit older. I think he's about 24, is he not? 24, 25? Yeah. I might be wrong, but that might be way off. But I think he is a bit older. He's been to a few different clubs in Germany, especially. But I totally agree, Jed. Jota was but by the way, it's what a lot of flair players need to have, that bit of personality, that bit of, that X factor sort of thing, and he absolutely backed it up. I know that, and that's probably why you answer the question, Steve. When you actually look at Abada's numbers and Jota's numbers side by side, they're actually quite similar. But I think if you were to ask most fans that watching the games week in, week out, or at the game week in, week out, we wanted Jota to receive the ball more than we did Abada. It was like, just give him the ball, and so stuff will happen, and it'll be good to look at, and it'll be a joy to watch as well. And like you say, that big game mentality. If you're going to score goals in Europe for Celtic, you're going to score late winners for Celtic, you're going to score lots of goals in derby games, you're going to go down, and you're going to be widely regarded by the fans. So yeah, both great players, but Nicolas Kuhn is well on his way to having that kind of level of adoration for the support. If he can keep this form up, I think, as Jed says, then there's no reason why he can't win the Player of the Year this year. And that's, considering where he started from, I think that's a great compliment to him.
I think as well, Tony, without cutting you off there, but I think Strains of the Doctor is in the right kind of ballpark here as well. I'd say Kuhn is in the same ballpark as Jota. Both are very way beyond what Abada brought to the side. But the thing I like with Kuhn is the balance and the pace on the wings with Maeda. And if you look at our front three, especially Kyogo, imagine having Kyogo run at you, Maeda run at you, and Nicolas Kuhn run at you. That is a formidable front three, especially for domestic football. And I'm sure they'll make their mark as well, as they already have, but a more so kind of prolonged period in European football as well. It's just for the pace, it's for the power, it's for the trickery, and it's just exciting to watch. And for me, like, you look at Abada, and I do agree with what you said, Tony. He was very instinctive. His instinct, his natural instinct took him into the 6-yard box. It took him into the back post, and he was there to get goals from that area. But I think when you put Abada out on the right-hand side and taking a man on, maybe 78 times out of 10 he wouldn't get by the guy, and he would always come back and play a ball in the midfield, and it looked good in the eye. But you look at the way Kuhn can do it. He can drag a player out of position, he can go around him, he can do it multiple ways, and he can still get the goals and assists. So that's the way I'm looking at this for Kuhn.
Kuhn is actually bringing two players on him, and he's
the centre half usually, or midfielder that's coming across with our left back.
That's that itself is a brilliant weapon to have. They need to try and put two players on him.
Yeah, and I think that's if you look at the position of Kuhn, sometimes that's why that kind of, the way AJ bombs forward and he always finds him in behind the last set, and that's why that works, because like you said, he's dragging maybe one or two players out of position. AJ sees the space and he's making the movements into the box, and AJ's even getting goals from that. So that kind of right hand side, like, you have Engels there, you have Nicolas Kuhn, you've got AJ kind of playing in that wee triangle, the wee triangles you used to see back in the day. They're just popping it around and they're creating space and they're dragging the fullbacks and centre halves out of possession. And especially when they do it quick. Seeing it do it quick, no one's getting the ball. Nobody's getting the ball. It's going to end up in the box and end up in a goal scoring opportunity. So I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. And just before we get on to the sort of, the European game tomorrow night, obviously we were semi-final one. Evening, Paul. we were obviously semi-final one, which was a great advert for Scottish football. I've got to think some of the football on display yesterday could have got the sport stopped, but the end result, I suppose, is all the same. And there will be another derby final, Jed, on Sunday, the 15th of December, I believe. I think Premier Sports have just confirmed it's going to be a 3:30 kickoff as well, which bit of a strange kickoff time, especially for a Sunday, but dare say it's plenty time to have a few days before the game.
That's just for the fleurs to clear.
That's a good point. Probably actually kicks off at 3, and then I need to wait for the visibility to improve, shall we say. But it's obviously, as we've discussed already, our record at Hampden has been absolutely fantastic, not just under Brendan, but of course under Ange and Neil Lennon in that meantime as well. Both the previous managers we've never played a League Cup final under Brendan against Rangers, a couple of semi-finals. Of course, Neil Lennon had his own victory against Rangers in the League Cup final. The Fraser Forster game we all remember well. And of course, Ange got the first of what proved to be the world record domestic treble with a 2-1 win against them back a couple of seasons ago. We've obviously had our joy against them in the Scottish Cup final last season when Maeda scored the winner, and we've got off to a great start with destroying them at Celtic Park at the start of the season. Of course, it's a cup final, anything can happen, but I think the most bitterest of Sevco enthusiasts would say that Celtic will be big favourites going into the game.
Oh, definitely. I watched the first half of their game yesterday, and both teams were absolutely terrible. The passing was shocking. It was not a good advertisement for Scottish football. And what I did see the second half, it did seem to be all Rangers. But let's be honest, guys. Again, I keep saying it all the time on here. If we play our potential on that day, we've won. There is not one player in that Rangers team that would get into our squad. Never mind starting 11.
That's one of the. I think our friends at TalkSport, Stephen, they were talking about that after the 3-0 game when even Simon Jordan was just willfully letting Graham Souness giving them the rope to hang himself with when he was constantly coming away with there's not that much of a gap and this, that and the other. And Troy Deeney just asked the question, well, how many Rangers players get in the Celtic team? And Graham Souness, with absolute authority, said the goalkeeper does, absolutely. And for me, I'd have Kasper Schmeichel over Jack Butland any day of the week. But even Simon Jordan pointed out the hilariousness of you're just picking the goalkeeper for the sake of making an argument now. The fact that there's no outfield player, as Jed says, gets anywhere near our starting 11. Obviously, it'd be a big game, of course. The favourites lose cup finals, it happens, but I think we can be quietly confident of a Celtic victory on the day, provided we've got the players, like our best players available.
Yeah, I'm like Jed. If we turn up and play our full potential, and we click, we'll win the game. There's no kind of question about that. I did agree with what Sanfran was saying there. If I can find it, sometimes they drag us down to their level, Hampden, and it ends up like a dogged game, and you're fighting for the victory. But again, any win's a win, especially in the final of a competition. So I'll take that. And I watched the whole Rangers game yesterday against Motherwell, and it was abysmal. It was, and I'm not just saying this through green tinted lenses. I mean, you've all seen me putting in the group chat. How can anyone trust Andy Halliday to start against them? Is beyond me. And then he goes and puts one in the back of the net. Yeah, and puts them 1-0 ahead. Oh, sorry. But it wasn't great, and what didn't look great as well, empty seats. Do you know what I mean? There was empty seats around the stadium. That didn't look great. You're trying to get TV deals improved, and you're served up that to us. But what I noticed, and what I think Celtic can maybe get at, and they've exploited this before. If any team that plays them does, seeing a team goes 1-0 ahead against them, see the amount of arguments and kind of snapping at each other they do. There was Butland and Tavernier were going at it. There were Balogun and who was their left back? Shefty or whatever his name is, was going at it. Their left back actually ran away when Halliday scored it. He didn't want to defend it. Halliday just popped in and scored the goal. So whatever, whatever happens. But look, as you said, it's a one-off game. Anything can happen. Am I confident we'll win? And if we turn up, we play. Yes, I am confident. I'm confident we'll win quite comfortably. But I don't want to look too far ahead and come to these conclusions right now. Things can change and change quite quickly. Injuries and suspensions, whatever it may be. At the moment, at this precise moment, they're absolutely shite. And can I just get one thing out? And it baffles me. How can a club be allowed to keep going when they post loss after loss after loss on their profit sheets and on their accounts? It is totally baffling. There's clearly a work.
The directors, mate. As crazy as long. I mean, we can see it as financial insanity. Of course it is. But whether it be $1 million in the red or 100 million in the red, which they have been in total over their 12 years, for as long as the directors are willing to, foot the bill, then administration is not it's not an imminent threat. However, currently expecting or hoping for these guys to continually put their hands in their pockets as the years go on, you're definitely asking for trouble. But the problem is they front loaded so much money to give to Steven Gerrard when that regime was there to try and stop Celtic for winning the 10. But the problem is, it's like everything else, you do end up having to pay for it. And that's that's the date with reality that they haven't quite made an appointment with yet. But those days of that was their big spending days. Even then, when we were posting the profits that we did, that's their glory days. There are years of austerity ahead, and I think that the current interim chairman is trying and get that message across. But the problem is trying to give that message to a group of supporters that thinks just because of the air they breathe that they are better, when they're simply not, is never going to work. And the thing is Big Red saying there as well. Even we hear the journalists talking about, they need investment, they need they need another sugar daddy to come in. If the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia himself bought Rangers tomorrow, nothing greatly would change, because you're still only allowed to spend I think perhaps 70% to compete in UEFA competitions. Now, forget they're already on a watch list. So any more, and obviously these latest figures will have guys at UEFA, that will have their attention. Any more, if they were to, sort of go beyond any other sort of limits or reservations, UEFA are not the SFA. They will not hesitate to, refuse them to participate. I think one of the main targets is to basically refuse them from participating in the competition. And, the thing is what I always say, Sevco are an illusion of Rangers, but Rangers from the late 80s onwards are an illusion of Rangers, because they want to hark back to days that were built on sand. It was other people's money, sugar daddy investment, and unfortunately for them, at least, the chickens have come home to roost. And as far as I'm concerned, long may it continue. But
Anthony, I think
hopefully we can add to their misery on December 15th. Sorry, Jed, on you go.
I think what you've got to mind is, I know this is a Celtic podcast and we're talking about Rangers and everything. Mm-hmm. I've said this to a few Rangers fans I know, the boys and at my work and everything like that. You are basically, me looking in, they look insolvent. They the figures that they released was only up to June. That is not taking account the Hampden.
This is with the stadium, etc. Yeah.
For the extra money for the botch up for the Copeland Road refurb. One of the directors has a loan that must be paid next year. And as somebody's put it up there, they've not even paid the COVID loan back to the Scottish Government. This is going to get worse. Like you said, if a multi-billionaire come in tomorrow, it would they couldn't spend what they think they could spend because the real estate that. So they have got...
Look at Newcastle.
Exactly.
Perfect example.
And
you've got to remember when Newcastle were taken over by the Saudis from like Mike Ashley, for all his faults, didn't rack up a hell of a lot of debt because they didn't spend much at Newcastle. So Newcastle were not... They were sort of in the green, if that makes sense, as much as a Premier League club can be. So it wasn't like the Saudis had to clear a rack of debt before they were then allowed to start spending. Whereas, if you're posting minus 17 million, you're bang on, Jed. Next year's going to be the exact same, possibly worse.
But I think even look at it, simplify
nothing rosy in the horizon for them.
Exactly. Simplify it more. 7 years ago, for talking's sake, the shares were £10. We're just using that as an example. These same shares now, because of the dilution and everything that's been on, you're looking if they're 90p. So they are. It's
you get changed.
Bonkers.
The original club got sold for £1. You'd actually get 10p change these things if that happens again.
It's not looking good for them. I really... Look, but that's for them to worry about. Obviously,
yes,
we could talk about this all night, but we would be coming across as bitter and things like that. So we'll leave it to the accountants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the creative accountants. Sorry.
Yeah. I wonder if that boy's still jumping about the boardroom with a tiger on his face. But
oh my God,
that's for them to worry about. But anyway, they can worry about the bailiffs. We can worry about Red Bull Leipzig in the Champions League tomorrow night, boys. Match night 4. We've got 4 points on the board already. We've literally had a bit of everything in Europe so far this season. We've had a win, we've had a defeat, albeit a heavy one, and a very good and credible draw against Atlanta. And there we go. So it's a lot to go on tomorrow. Red Bull Leipzig, Stephen, haven't had the best of starts in the phase, but we've seen from a couple of years ago that the German outfits, they've got to be respected. But I think we've seen enough from Celtic so far in the tournament to say that at home, fingers crossed, we can add to the points we've already tallied up so far.
I mean, you say they haven't had the best start to the league phase of the Champions League. That may be so, but they're second in the Bundesliga. Do you know what I mean? Last time we played Dortmund, we got an absolute spanking, and they didn't start the league campaign over in Germany very well. So this feels like the air of confidence we had getting into the Dortmund game, where people are going, we can maybe get a result here, we can do this. I'm probably a wee bit more pessimistic right now, and kind of putting a wee barrier between me and myself getting carried away in terms of what we can do against the RB Leipzig. They've got a player, Football Manager people know this, Benjamin Sesko. Like, he is an ultimate star to have a Football Manager. They've got him at the moment, and he's proven to be that kind of star. He's 19, 20. He's racking up the goals. He's come through that system of Red Bull Salzburg and RB Leipzig, and he'll probably end up at a Bayern Munich or whatever later down the line. But it's a long line of production of players that they keep producing, and they've lost a lot of key players like Nkunku to Chelsea. Timo Werner is at Spurs still, isn't he? I believe so. They've lost a lot of their heavy hitters like that, but they're still a young, vibrant, very dynamic team. And again, if you listen to the experts and the pundits, they tell us that they're a better outfit than Borussia Dortmund. So if we play like we did at Atalanta and that kind of conservative approach, looking to hit the counter attack, and we tidy up that bit where we have the ball and maybe try and create more chances and goal scoring opportunities, I think that's what we probably will do and should do. That kind of taking that learning from the Dortmund game and the plan at the Atalanta, getting a good result in Italy, and then can we take that at home, maybe be a bit more risky in the final third, but still retreating back into the defensive shape and trying to do things like that. Like I'm really nervous for the game because we've had a fantastic result there in the semi-final, and I'm looking at this game tomorrow night. We're on 4 points already. As I said, good result away from home at a tough venue, and at the moment I would take a draw, and that would take us to 5 points. So that's where I'm sitting at, kind of wrestling myself in my head at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough, mate. Before I come to Jed, what would your score prediction and your team lineup?
My team lineup tomorrow night would be Kasper Schmeichel, Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Austin Trusty, Alex Valle, Callum McGregor, Arnie Engels, Rio Watate, Kuhn. See, this is the bit. It's Kyogo at home. Do you know? I'm thinking that I'll go Kyogo, and I'll go Dyson. We can't leave out Dyson. Go Dyson, Maeda on the left. And my score prediction: go for a very, very safe 1-1 draw, one each.
There we go. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. And what about yourself, Jed? Obviously, massive night at Celtic Park away. It's going to be another incredible atmosphere. Like Stephen, we're always wary about being overconfident because I think, back in perhaps in Martin O'Neill days, there would be a case of 3 games at home, 9 points, and it's all about, if you picked anything up on the road, you were fine because you were getting your 3 points at home anyway. Of course, those days are long gone. We're under no illusion about how good, as I say, not the best of starts, but how good this team are, and we've seen them up close a couple of years ago as well. This will be a really tough game for Celtic, but hopefully we can put all as Stephen says, the lessons that we've learned, good and bad, we've been on the road, and hopefully we can try to get another positive result.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen hit the nail on the head as well. They lost their first league game at the weekend to Dortmund. If you look at the 3 teams that they've played in the Champions League so far, Atletico Madrid, Juventus and Liverpool. 3 weak teams,
Yeah.
And I watched the highlights of the Liverpool game against them, the last game, and they could easily have scored 3 or 4 goals against Liverpool. Mm-hmm. This is a quality team. Do not kid yourself. My concern is the fans turning up in the morning. The expectation is we're going to roll over these guys. Yeah. We ain't. The fans have a big part to play tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. Don't get on the players' backs.
100%.
This team is quality. German teams are quality. They know how to play. Part of me wants to go out attack, but we can't do that. If we do that, we're signing our own death card for that. They will pick us off if we do that. We need to be clever in the way we play tomorrow. What we have to do as well, and you see it as a pattern in Europe, we give the ball away too easy.
Yeah.
Easy passes, and we don't find their man. We have to make sure we find their man. And when we get the opportunities, we need to hit the target. We need to try and score the goals, because we maybe only get 2 or 3 chances tomorrow night. I hope we get more. Mm-hmm. But when you're up against an opposition like this, we need to be clever how we play tomorrow night. Of course, we want to go out and attack, but it ain't going to happen. The lineup, I agree with Stephen 100%. That's what I thought I would. That's what I would have went for. The same team that started on Saturday, and I'm going to go 2-1 for us. Just to get the blood pumping a wee bit more as it is. I'll not sleep the night right enough, but
that's the butterflies will be in full flight, Jed. Full flight.
Tony, I think as well. Sorry, but I think what Jed said is correct. I mean, it's that not false confidence, but we get a great result, and we have to understand our domestic game to the Bundesliga and to these top teams is lightning, and it's even more exposed now because you talked about Martin Lee's era. We were competing relatively well back then with obviously certain things, and we were getting great results. And look, I'm not going to harp on about finances. That's not what I'm going to do. I don't never make an excuse for that. But it's just the quality of player, different intensities of leagues, different quality of opposition they face. week in, week out. And I think Charlie Mulgrew spoke about it on the Open Goal recently. I mean, if you're going from playing Barcelona on a Tuesday evening and you're up at Dingwall in Ross County, it's a massive come down. Do you know what I mean? It's these types of mentality issues that the players probably have to get used to, going from one extreme to another and trying to get a result in an environment which is so alien to them because you're playing in the Scottish game. Again, no disrespect to the Scottish football. I love Scottish football. We all know that, but it's just totally different. And I think we just have to be on our guard, be a bit pessimistic in our football play and tactical. And I think Rodgers will do that. And Jed's bang on. The amount of times we get the ball in a good position and panic sets in and we give it away and we're getting hit in the counter attack and the opposition scores. It happens all the time in European football. See what Dyson Maeda done against Aberdeen. This is case in point, right? This is what I think would have happened. So if he done that exact same move against RB Leipzig where he took the ball, he ran with it, and against Aberdeen he stopped his body, that player, the Aberdeen player, moved away from him because it's low centre of gravity, took him away, and he played Kyogo. Do you know what would have happened if that was in Europe? He would have done the exact same thing, but instead of stopping himself, he would have tried the audacious shot and it would have went over the bar about 20 or 30 miles, and that would have been the chance to end it. But in the domestic game, he took his time, he was composed, and he found Kyogo and a wonderful finish off the bar. Just do stuff like that. Take more time, take care of the ball, and then hopefully a goal or goals will take care of themselves.
I think for that reason about being better with the ball, that's my only change to the team that you guys have. But I think he might bring Paulo Bernardo back in. And I think that might, I'm trying to think of who would be sacrificed. I think it possibly could be Hatate. Although that you take that into account, we're at home and Hatate's a very expressive player, but I just think Bernardo gives McGregor that little bit extra protection as well and allows him to perhaps get forward a bit and dictate the play a little bit better. So that would be my only change to the teams that you guys have said as well. But I have to say, Jed, I'm going with yourself, mate. I'm going to say the same. I'm going to go 2-1 Celtic. I think fingers crossed could be another special night under the floodlights. But the good thing is, as I said, we said it at the time, although it was a match that, yes, even though it's a Champions League, you expect to win against Bratislava. Having that 3 points for match night one has just gave us something to build on. Doesn't feel like we've been playing catch up all the time, and hopefully that Brendan will try and bring that sense of calmness to us. And like you say, but Jed, you're bang on. Fans have got to be with us as well. It can't be, the first time there's a misplaced pass that there's a big anxious sigh or whatever. It's got to be support and no sort of, kind of getting on the backs of and chastising and criticising. It's going to be another one of the nights, I think, but fingers crossed Celtic come out on top.
And they're going to have a great support with them as well, Anthony. They're going to
absolutely. The German clubs always do.
I mean, Stephen as well, you mentioned about Martin O'Neill. The difference to Martin O'Neill's team and this team, Martin O'Neill's team had a lot more physicality. Mm-hmm. And when we were up against Juventus in the likes at that time, we didn't go in with the mindset, we're going to win to the other fans. Like I say, my concern is the fans are going to tomorrow night thinking, this is it, we're at home, this is 3 points. We can't go with that attitude. We need to be on a top game. We can't be carrying a couple, 2 or 3 players tomorrow. We need to be every player playing to 90% tomorrow to try and get a result. We need to keep things simple and don't panic. I know it's easier said than done, but
yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Are you both going?
Yeah, my Jude is taking my ticket tomorrow night. He's going with his papa, Peter, tomorrow night. I said his football training always lands on a Monday night and a Wednesday night, so he's not been able to, he wasn't at the last game, and our other 2 games are on a Wednesday night. So I did say when the draw was made, this is that he can go to 1 game this season. So he's going tomorrow night with his papa, Peter. So I don't think there'll be much. I don't think he'll sleep much tonight with the excitement. But fingers crossed, he's. Good luck, Chatham. He usually is. He's no. I don't think he's seen many defeats, if any. So here's hoping that continues tomorrow night. But yeah,
on that note, Anthony, I don't know if my daughter's watching this. If you're here, you've still given me the money for the tickets. You still giving them for the game on Saturday. So just send over me anytime.
That's right. We've got debts to settle here, you know. Oh, superb, mate. But listen, enjoy the game tomorrow night, and fingers crossed it's another memorable one. And again, that is us for tonight, guys. We've packed a lot into an hour. We've reviewed a semi-final, previewed a Champions League match. We've laughed at our rivals' latest bank statement. Apart from that, you've enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you for hosting tonight.
No,
top job, buddy. Top job.
As I always say, Stephen, Graham's always ready, born ready. Just need my velvet jacket, and then we're ready to go. Perfect, and thanks to everybody again for listening and all the comments and that tonight as well. We really appreciate it. It's been a great show, and wherever you're seeing the game tomorrow, whether it's in the stands or on the telly, here's hoping for a big result as this European campaign unfolds. But thanks again, folks, and we'll be back Friday night, Stephen, this week, I think.
Well, yeah, more likely to be Friday. I don't think a double pivot will go ahead on Wednesday. As we said at the start there, like, it's just a hectic time at the moment. As I said, people have stuff going on, but we are trying to get back to full schedule. As always, check the social media, X and Instagram, Facebook. You'll know when we're live anyway, and YouTube always gives you a notification if you like and subscribe. So do that if you haven't, and you'll know when we're going live. So yeah, hopefully Friday, Tony.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And as I say, enjoy the game. And to use Stephen's phrase, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.